everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Pro Wrestling Defined. I'm your host, Jonathan O'Dwyer, and please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep up with all future content, interviews with legends of the business like the man we have on the show today. And he has a big comedy show coming up August the 7th. Tickets available for that now on Eventbrite. You know him as Jameson from WWF. John DiGiacomo, how are you doing today, my man?
Oh, thanks, man. Not many people could pronounce the name. That's awesome. I didn't even school you on that. You surprised me getting it right. The last name is generally tough for most people.
Joseph helped me a little bit with that, so
that's great. But at least you took the time, because constantly mispronounced. But awesome. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's great to have you on the show, man. Looking forward to talking about everything. And so talk about the comedy show you have coming up. How did that all come about, and what can people expect?
You know, a lot of my adult life has been spent in comedy, either as a stand-up, as a writer, and then as a coach too. My son is part of the show. And what we're doing, basically, we want to get a couple of really talented speaker type retired wrestlers on these shows. And the show is basically, it's like an hour to an hour and a half of comedy, stand up, and actually me and my son kind of choreographed a really funny bit, physical. And then we have Mario Mancini, who does stand up, and the headliner is Greg Valentine. And after the comedy show ends, we're going to do like an hour to an hour and a half of Q&A. And then following that, it's a meet and greet where, you know, it's not a big convention where there's 500 people in the room. It's in a comedy club setting. So there's 90 people, 90 tickets available. At least there were a few days ago. I know it's a little bit less than that, at least. And part of the evening is a gourmet meal in a really fine Italian restaurant. 3 courses with choices. And just think that, you know, with COVID and everything, and now things opening back up, but now I'm hearing some really bad things, that things might not be open for long, because numbers are spiking again with this new strain, and people that are vaccinated like myself can still, you know, it's almost time in New York to go back to masks because of the spike in this new strain. But anyway, just thinking that with being shut down for like 20 months, 16 months, whatever it was, it's a new time in entertainment. And never was a fan of going and do these, meet and greets, these conventions. A lot of people, it's pretty much they wait online and they get a picture and an autograph or whatever they paid for. And but it's not real personal. There's no real entertainment to it, except for that very limited time you have in front of these guests that, and you paid $50 to get in, and you still got to buy all your stuff. So
and a lot more in some cases.
Yeah. Just thought it was time to let's put on a show for these people. So, and you know, being able to give these people making deals with fine restaurants in my area to do these shows. It's like, it's the best of both worlds. It's comedy, dinner, and wrestling, basically. And haven't seen that except in those week-long conventions where these hours it's this, these hours are this. You go back to the hotel. The next day it's photo ops, and it's all this big. It's one night. You don't have to stay in a hotel. 7 o'clock it starts. You're out of there before midnight, and who could beat it? And it's funny. And I'm also this opening show airing. When I was at the WWF, right after I finished, which was the Royal Rumble '92, with a friend, I shot this tape, this on VHS. That's how long ago, on like a Super 8 home movie camera, as a demonstration to Vince of what could be a really good, funny storyline. And it was basically the genius who was managing the Beverly Brothers against me and the Bushwhackers. He roughed me up pretty good, embarrassed me physically. He slapped me around. So the storyline was basically Jameson joining a gym to get in shape to get revenge on the genius. And it's a really funny video. It's actually funnier than anything I ever did on the WWF. And I'm cutting it up into like 3 different episodes, and I just aired the first one.
Is that the one where you were training in the gym?
Yes, and it goes on from there. You know, it ends with me hanging upside down on the chin-up bar, but it keeps going. There's a story, you know. The storyline continues throughout the next 2 episodes as well. And it's just Jameson, you know, attempting to use the equipment, not knowing what it does or what it's for, or, so that night, that comedy show, I'm going to air the whole in the, you know, with the audience there. The room is set up for a projector and a big screen, and I'm going to air all 13 minutes as like a world premiere.
Cool.
So it's going to be a great night. It's that video itself is funny. Besides actually getting to get up close and personal with some of these personalities.
Awesome, man. And anybody that wants to check that out, go on to eventbrite.com. There's still some tickets available, so highly recommend everybody head on into that. So getting into your WWF run, how Vince McMahon discovered you was quite unique. But just before we go into how you were discovered and everything, did you have any background with wrestling before? Were you a wrestling fan growing up or anything like that? Or
for a limited time, I was, as a kid. I would say, you know, maybe till I was 10 or 11. Mil Mascaras was always my favorite because I was into amateur wrestling, like the freestyle. And he came out of that background too, and and you could see it in the ring. He was very much more advanced moves, takedowns, and wrist control, and figure fours, and what amateur Olympic style wrestling really was. And so I was always attracted to it. But as I got older, I kind of shifted more into American football and baseball, and where you didn't know the outcome. And but then, as I would say, as I went into it's all right. I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. I just
you're okay.
But as I, turned 20 and Vince bought the company, and I was, still a kid, a young adult, saw how wrestling was making a huge comeback with Vince buying the company and bringing MTV and all these, Cyndi Lauper was big on that video. Like it was, you couldn't escape it. I wasn't following it, but you couldn't escape it. So I kind of had a sense, that wrestling was big business, and Vince McMahon's face was everywhere. So it was, I definitely knew what I was getting into. Well, maybe not really knew what I was getting into, but was really excited about him finding me and offering me a contract.
Yeah, I get into that because he discovered you at an improv show that you were on. Isn't that how he ended up finding you? Talk about how that all happened.
Yeah. I decided after 10 years in the financial world, Wall Street and such in New York, right out of school, right out of college, I burnt out. I didn't want to do it anymore. I went into stand-up. Stand-up led me into this improv show that Vince McMahon happened to be at, saw me, just thought I was, and I recognized him because it was that intimate of a crowd setting, more like in a restaurant kind of venue. Knew that he appreciated it, cracked him up a lot of times. Even during the improv, I went after him and kind of had this fantasy when the show ended. Let me get dressed and go see if I could go say hello to Vince. And I got him before he left just to say hello. And he was very, very nice, said, I really enjoyed your show. And that was it. I woke up Sunday morning. That was a Saturday night. I woke up Sunday morning. I'm sure I was still thinking about, oh, wow, wouldn't it be great? But by Sunday night and then waking up Monday morning, going back to my humdrum life, kind of forgot about it. But sure enough, like by late morning, he called the theater, the restaurant, find out who played Jameson, and brought me in. Told me, we're bringing Bobby down. Stay in character. Just be Jameson. Don't let him know you're John. Just stay in character. And we want to see how you guys get along. And they were looking for a co-host for the Bobby Heenan show. This is 1989. And me and Bobby just immediately, and definitely the first half hour, he didn't know if I was for real or I was just an actor and playing this character. And, sure enough, finally he got it and said, yeah, let's do this. They offered me a contract that day and I did it. I was, I was pretty psyched. I mean, it was good money. It was way more money than stand-up. And not that I ever had any intention of being an actor, but I was suddenly an actor because there wasn't stand-up anymore. It was doing all these shows where they gave me great setups. And it was all improvisation. And then, which, I was getting a lot of offers to do auditions for commercials, movies, TV show, all this stuff. And I said, yeah, let me go try. Let me go audition. I hit my second audition for a commercial and decided I'm going to be an actor. That's what I'm going to do. While I was with WWF, I didn't have a secondary job. I did that, and I try to book other acting work. So that's kind of how it all got going.
Just on the Bobby Heenan show and on the primetime wrestling show then as well, how hands-on was Vince in terms of direction? Like you said, it was a lot of improv, but would Vince direct you like maybe in bullet points or anything like that?
Not very little. If anything, Vince might just, after you spoke to the head writer and there was nothing written, it was a concept. There was no lines ever written. It was total improv. he might, a couple of times I can remember him saying, don't do this or don't say this. But that was it. It was, they had, at the time when I started out, they had the head of, creativity, the head writing guy was just awesome at setting up funny bits. Michael Feinberg, I think his name was, and he left even before Raw while primetime was still going on. And Kevin Dunn, who's now kind of the guy in television now, was like his assistant, and he took over the department at that point and was really relied on me heavily to, come up with ideas and all that. Whereas, because he had so many other things to worry about, but happy that he made it. He's a really good guy, Kevin. Well, I forgot the question. I don't know if I answered it.
No, you're all good. You're all good, man. So talk about working with Bobby. I mean, your chemistry was amazing, and just even the little things. Like I was watching one of the Bobby Heenan shows there today, and there was one part that I just loved. Like he'd kind of finished their bit, and they were going in on a close-up shot on Bobby as he was introducing the next guest, and you just peep in into the frame, and he's just like, get out. It's hilarious stuff. Talk about working with Bobby and what your relationship was like.
I think one of my favorite moments on it was only 4. They only did 4 episodes, and then the network canceled it, which was just so surprising to everybody at WWF because they thought it was really funny, and it got great mail, got great. But USA, who kind of calls the shots on, they probably don't anymore. Can't imagine anybody calls the shots on Vince these days, but they canceled it. But my favorite moment in those 4, Jameson was just the wrong guy, always the wrong guy to be in that situation. And, but we broke for commercial. And when they came back from the commercial, I was seated on a couch. Bobby had that big armchair, and I'm on the couch. And when they came back from the commercial, I right away put my back to the camera and laid down like in a fetal position, like I was taking a nap on the couch, snoring, and they went with it. They got real close up of me sleeping on the couch, and Bobby just, shaking his head. But I know, but first of all, how I feel about Bobby is Bobby could have been, if Bobby went to Hollywood instead of into professional wrestling, he would have been a star. He would have still been a star. He was that talented. And you can't say that about a lot of people that came out of WWF. Bobby was that 1 in a million. He was so sharp. He had such a catalog of responses to anything you said. And one of the things I know he respected me because there were times we would be shooting something and I would crack him up laughing where they had a cut. We had to reshoot because Bobby broke character and he was not supposed to because he was the bad guy. It was great. I was able to make it. I broke him way more than he broke me. Not to say I was funnier than him. I was just able to keep a straight face better than him. And it was great. He was a lot of fun. He really appreciated how I set him up for jokes. And there've been some great personalities behind the mic at WWF, like Gorilla and Mean Gene, working with Bobby and all that. But Bobby dominated those guys. And the one thing, from a comedy standpoint, he didn't really dominate me. I got as many laughs as he did, it seemed. And when Um, and I know that's why Vince was such a huge fan. I mean, and a lot of the old time wrestlers, or the old school, like guys, his advisors, his matchmakers and promoters didn't really like Jameson, didn't like the character. Because it was just too out there. But Vince, he always wanted to find something for me to do. When the Bobby Heenan show was canceled, he stuck me in as an audience plant at Primetime, which was a studio show. And when they switched over to Raw and everything was shot on the road, he brought me. It's how ultimately I became the Bushwhackers manager. But a lot of the guys around him just didn't see Jameson. Once Primetime ended, didn't see Jameson, at the arena, near the ring, during Raw, but Vince always wanted to use me. He always wanted to find a place that would work for me.
Pat Patterson was one of the guys that had an issue with the Jameson character.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was definitely old school. He was the guy when we would get to the arena when we were on the road, who would pretty much tell everybody what they were doing for that 3 nights or 4 nights, depending on where we were. And everybody would be waiting. Oh, Pat's, when's Pat get? Pat would go to everybody, and I would be waiting, and he'd say, "You got to talk to Vince." He would kind of shut me down. Like I could just tell he was not a fan, and he probably cringed when Vince said, "Yeah, let's put him with the Bushwhackers." So yeah, Pat was one of those guys, one of the few people that, and some of the wrestlers too, that just thought I was not in the right locker room, so to speak, in terms of being a wrestling personality.
Sure. Just speaking of the Bushwhackers as well, I have a question from a big fan of yours, my friend Jack Reynolds. He wants to know, how did you get along with the Bushwhackers behind the scenes, and what was that experience like of working with them?
Two gentlemen, 2 great guys. Even when they told me about they were going to put me on the road when Primetime ended and they were going to hook me up with the Bushwhackers, I really felt sorry for them, because in my mind, I'm thinking when these guys hear, they're going to be like, "Oh shit, we got to work with you." But they never made me feel that way. They always made me feel welcome and part of the team, and really, really good guys. Yeah, I mean, 2 of the best guys. Definitely, if I had to pick my 5 favorite personalities to work with, they'd be 2 out of the 5.
Awesome. And another fan question from my friend Paul Fraser, another big fan of yours. He wants to know who came up with the look for Jameson.
It's funny. It came right out of the show I was doing. I was playing Jameson. He was named Jameson. It was the same suit I wore in this show.
Wow.
And the funny thing was, I helped, working with 2 other writers, I helped create this character for this improv show, but I wasn't ever supposed to play that character. I was going to play a different character. And when the producers decided to make the show union, we had to cut out a couple of actors from the cast to save money, because it's a lot more expensive to do union shows than non-union. So they cut my character and they said, "You're going to have to play Jameson." And I'm like, I can't play Jameson. I'm not a nerd. I'm not, knowing that I had helped write him. That's not me. We got to get an actor. it's a starring role. And they convinced me, just come to rehearse, come to the first night of rehearsal, see what happens. Let's see what you could do it. You could do it. You could do it. And I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I brought a pair of glasses. I really need these now. I didn't back then. And I crossed my eyes and I found my inner nerd, and he blew up. The character on this show blew up. And that's, how Vince got involved to see the show, and the rest is history. But yeah, I actually helped come up with not only the character, but the wardrobe, the hunchback. I mean, I was an athlete when I was doing Jameson. I was cut. I wrestled, I boxed, I did gymnastics. So I had some training, and I was built, I was muscular. It was very well hidden in that getup, but it's what really allowed me to be popular among the wrestlers, to do a bit with me, because I was all about whoever I was working with saying, throw me, like hit me. I'm good with it. Don't. And a lot of the non-wrestling personalities of that time, the managers, the announcers, they didn't want to get roughed up. They didn't want to. So when they said, wow, Jameson's good, he'll let you throw him upside down. He'll let you do. The guys kind of respected that, and they beat the shit out of me.
It works. I'll just throw some random names at you, actually, and just give your memories, any interactions you had with them. We'll start off with Hulk Hogan.
Really, really, really good to me, and thought I was hilarious. And when those few tours I did on the road, he always wanted me to ride in his van after the show to the, wherever we were going that night, the bars, the strip clubs, wherever. He always wanted me around him. And right after Royal Rumble, there was a proposed tour to Japan. And he was like, he would always say to me, Jameson, you're coming on that tour. You come with me, buddy, brother. Real good to me. Really nice guy. I mean, I get why he wasn't the most popular guy in the room with the other wrestlers, but like Vince, never the most popular guy. Made some. There were people that didn't love Vince that worked there, and but both Vince and Hulk were nothing but gentlemen and appreciative, and supported, Jameson, which was great. A lot of guys were really supportive. I mean, had a great relationship with Macho Man. With one of my favorite was Mr. Perfect. Was just thought I was, and absolutely my two favorite people to work with, because of the bits that came out of it, were Ted DiBiase and Sensational Sherri. That there was two great bits we did that, they were, especially Sherri. She was into it. I mean, I let her beat the crap out of me, and she was like, when I left there, she was still the one person that I always got a Christmas card from. We stayed in touch. She was a sweetheart.
And another great bit that you did as well is the one with the Berserker, John Moore, where he had you tied up and he throws you off the bridge. That was awesome. Any memories of that and working with John?
That's everybody's favorite bit that I ever did. I think my favorite episode is maybe Macho Man's bachelor party, but that's more because it was funny behind the scenes. But yeah, that was great. The Berserker gave me a lot of exposure, because they continued it into the next week. They pulled me out on a hospital gurney. It was great. They were really, really good to me. I wish I had the appreciation when I was doing that of how popular my character was, because I didn't. I really treated it at the time like just another acting job. And it wasn't until literally 20 years later that I realized, how many people remember Jameson, were interested in Jameson. It blew my mind that I didn't see that or feel that when I was actually under contract. And that's just me not knowing the business.
You hear that even from some of the wrestlers even as well, like that they didn't appreciate it till years later. I think it's just from being in the middle of it at the time. You're so focused in on what's happening in the moment, I guess.
Yeah, that's part of it, definitely. The other part for me was that doing these tours meant I couldn't audition for any other work because I was obligated to get on a plane, Wednesday for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, weekend or something. So I couldn't take other acting work because I didn't know what my schedule was. And being under contract, I had to honor that first. So I kind of stopped from the time Primetime ended to the Royal Rumble 1992. I really didn't audition for anything for other acting work because, even if I got the job, if I was able to go to the audition, if I got the job, I couldn't take it because I was under contract with them.
Yeah. Another brilliant skit that you did that I absolutely love is I'm going to share it after this as well for people to watch it. It's absolutely excellent. Is on the Primetime Wrestling show, you come in and you start choking on a cucumber or something like that. Hacksaw does the Heimlich maneuver on you.
Yeah.
But it's the part after that. Oh my God, it's gold. Like, it just shows how good Bobby was. Comes back and you've gone off screen. The phone, yeah. He's alive.
I got bad news. He's alive or whatever. Yeah.
And you actually sincerely think for a second, that there's something bad coming. And then it's just like, oh man, so good.
He was
so
awesome.
Good.
He was awesome. Yeah.
Excellent.
And Hacksaw's another guy I love that, some of these guys, like, I know there were definitely guys that I knew wouldn't be good doing a bit with me, sharing the screen with me. But there were some guys that were like, Hacksaw was great. The Berserker, even the Warlord, I did something with him. And a lot of the stuff I did, I forgot about. I actually bumped into him maybe on my first signing I ever did. And he was asking me if I had any footage of the bit we did together. And I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't remember it. And then somebody told me later on where they taped me up and he used me as a barbell, the Warlord. But, there were people that wanted to work that were not quite yet over and thought I could get them over. So it was 90% positive in terms of feedback from other talent. It was great. I just didn't have the appreciation back then that I have now for even the relationships that I made. And now I'm starting to see people again because I started doing appearances. I don't even do one a year. I mean, I get asked a lot. I don't do many. But when I do run into people, I'm so glad one of the ones I did was, probably within a couple of months of Bobby passing away. And I did get to see him. And he signed a copy of his book to me. And he met my son, who, was a budding star at the time. He's done so much. So proud of him. And seeing Ted, and I have a WWE magazine, at the time still WWF magazine, with the cover is me, King Kong Bundy, and Ted Dibiase. It's a Christmas issue. Bundy's pulling me out of a Christmas stocking, and big article on the inside. But I have that signed by King Kong Bundy and Ted.
Oh.
And that was another guy that not long after that, he passed away. And the weekend that I got inducted into the New England Wrestling Hall of Fame, that same weekend, Macho Man passed away. So there's a lot. And then I got inducted with Chief Jay Strongbow, same weekend. And within 2 weeks of that, he passed away. So, yeah, those shows, there's a lot of sadness for me going to do these shows, because a lot of the guys that I enjoyed spending time with and working with are not in good shape. They're and for various reasons, but not much older than me, and either in wheelchairs, walking on with a cane or with a walker, or it kind of freaks me out a little bit. That kind of sad, some of the sights at those, and it's the way a lot of the guys make a living, is going to do those shows. That's really all they have. And it's and it's not the reason that it's kept me away from doing those shows, but because I always had other things, because of my son, always had other things going. We were in LA so much. He was, doing the Disney show, and fresh off the boat, and we were in LA a lot. We traveled a lot. And so I couldn't commit to doing those shows. Now he's not, most of the work he's doing, even before COVID, was in New York, like the shows, the CBS show, Kevin Can Wait, playing Kevin's son, Kevin James. Most of his work the last few years have been in New York. So I said, let me go back into it. Let me start doing this, which led me into doing these comedy shows now.
Oh man! Talk about the Royal Rumble '92. I mean, that's heralded as one of the greatest Royal Rumbles of all time. And like you had the moment with Bushwhackers and Beverly Brothers, and I love your line after Lanny Poffo hits you on the outside. He hitted me.
Yeah,
it's such a good moment. Talk about what that was like.
Yeah, I never prepared. I just figured whatever happens, go with it. Be funny like you were growing up with your friends. And, that's kind of how I treated it. I felt like I was better if I didn't know what was coming. And it was a great moment. I mean, that event was in Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, which is north of New York City. For me, it's only like a 2-hour drive. And there were 20,000 people there, or close to it. And when they introduced us, the crowd was chanting Jameson. Was like, it was a real eye-opener for me that everybody in the arena was chanting for me. And it was great. One of the things I loved about Lanny was he totally shared my thought that do what you got to do, make it look real. Whatever you got to, hit me, do, and Lanny was one of those guys that he was not wrestling anymore. He was a manager, but was right in the mix in terms of being physical and getting beat up. And as a wrestler, he knew how to fall, he knew how to take it. And I think we got along well together because, everybody had to be scratching their heads the first time they saw Jameson. And he was also pleasantly surprised that I said, brother, just hit me, hit me. Let's, one of the things that always bothered me and maybe drew me away from wrestling a bit growing up is some of this stuff looked fake. And I just was not good with, faking anything, right? And Lanny was the same way. It was great. It was a great time. It was fun. I felt relevant, at the Royal Rumble, which is great.
Awesome. And just a few more random names just before we wrap up. Ultimate Warrior, did you have any interactions with him while you were there?
Never worked with him. Remember meeting him, and he was not part of the show, but he was coming in at the studio for some kind of promo. But dismissive, not at all. Like some of them meeting me for the first time were like, oh my God, Sergeant Slaughter, the first time I met him, even though we really never worked together. He was so complimentary to me that, oh my God, you're getting big, buddy. And a lot of the guys that were that way, but Ultimate Warrior, no. And, he had a reputation anyway but I never judged people unless, they did something to me or to I always, there were rumors about everybody. And I never went there. I was determined to not judge and just judge based on my interaction with them. But there were guys, the Nasty Boys hated me, just thought I was, and then there was, I forget what they were called, but Typhoon and Earthquake.
Oh, natural disasters.
What were they called? Yeah. Yes.
Natural disasters.
Tugboat, great guy. Typhoon, if he could have, thrown me out of the building, he would have. He was just thought I was poking fun at wrestling. And, but besides that, I think it was all good. Even some of the jobbers on the road, came up, told me how they let, and I'm still in touch with a couple of them. So that's pretty cool. And Miss Elizabeth, she was as sweet in real life as you would expect from her character. She just awesome. Awesome lady. For real. Good. Give me another one. Give me another name. Try to give you a story.
Jake the Snake Roberts.
He was around. We were on some shows together. Never worked together. Never felt warm and fuzzy with him like I did with some of the guys. Just not. Another great guy, IRS. Mike, great guy. Just really. What was so interesting about Mike was that years later, we bumped into each other doing a signing, and his son is Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
And my son did a pay-per-view with Bray and John Cena. My Extreme Rules, 2014.
Yes. Yeah. That was the
little boy,
Cage, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. The little boy singing.
Yeah. Wow.
That stuff.
That's cool,
That's my son. And I didn't get him that gig. He got that through his agent. So it was such a,
that's a cool full circle story.
Right. And it was a Sunday night pay-per-view. And Monday morning, we had to be in LA on an early flight. And when his agent called to say they want to give James the role, I almost said no, because we had to be up so early the next morning. And those pay-per-views sometimes knew we wouldn't be home till after midnight. But I said, got to do this. I got to have this. I have to be able to share this experience with my son because of what I did there. And he was great too, my son. He was great. Vince. And the funny thing was, when we went to go shoot that at it was in the Meadowlands. I hadn't seen Vince in like 25 years. And when he comes in, goes right to my son. And my son at the time was like 8. Yeah, I think he was like 8 years old. He gets down on one knee to talk to him and to tell him what he's going to be doing. You're going to be hiding under the ring. Are you afraid of the dark? You're going to be hiding under the ring. When the lights come out, we'll tap you. You come out, come up these stairs and sing this song. And then Vince looks up at me from being down on, he says, you must be the father. And I said, yeah, Vince, you recognize me? And he's like, you look so familiar. So I made the Jameson face. I went like this. And he freaked. Big hug, lifted me off the ground. Oh my God. What? Telling me, I got to take you around. There's still people here in TV from when you were here. They'd love to see you. Oh my God. Like he was so freaked out by the fact that we hadn't been in contact for 25 years. And here's, he's talking to my son that I didn't book it. He booked it through his agent. It's really fun story. And the night we went to shoot it, my son did this very famous commercial like the year before for American football with a very famous football player, Cam Newton. And it was hilarious. It was viral on YouTube. 2 million hits the first weekend. And when we were in the green room with all these now, mind you, when you're doing a pay-per-view, there's like 25 the top 25 personalities are there in some capacity or another. And when word was getting around that the little kid was the kid from that commercial, they were coming up to him to take pictures. The Bella twins were all over him. Ryback said, this kid's going to have some, like, there were a lot of people that came up to him. I have the mask here from that night.
That's awesome, man.
And it's signed by 5 of
that's
those
super cool
wrestlers. Really cool.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah. A lot of fun, my son, running his career for those 10 or so years. Still doing it, but just not as busy. Nobody's as busy because of COVID. And now it's going to go back. I said that I'm very pessimistic about this. I shouldn't be, but I am. Numbers are spiking in this country again.
Yeah, it's going up. It's creeping up here as well, but we're like, everything's still very restrictive here anyway. So I mean, they're just starting to open the bars and stuff up here, but you have to be vaccinated to
right.
go indoors and everything, like, so it's I don't know what way it's going to work out here either. Even compared to Northern Ireland, like, we're still awfully restricted. Yeah.
They you didn't have to wear a mask anymore for the last couple of months if you were vaccinated. But for me, the big thing is that people that are vaccinated are getting it. It's not as effective against that strain as it was originally designed to protect. Anyway, we shouldn't even be talking about this. It's all about wrestling.
We'll finish on this note. Talk about your favorite moment on screen and most sentimental moment, we'll say, on screen and off screen from your time in WWF.
Sentimental on screen and off screen. I remember, I mean, sentimental in the way that I could really look back and appreciate it now. When we were doing on primetime, when we did Macho Man's bachelor party, there was a moment where I broke up everybody, that they had to cut and redo the whole, segue into a commercial, the whole wrapping up that scene. And it just involved, and who knew back then, this was before I was with the Bushwhackers. But they, in the bachelor party, that's a great episode. It's a great episode. They carried on this like 6-foot hero, and it was raw fish. And they weren't sardines. I mean, these fish were as big as your hand. They were all this raw fish. And one of them fell out of the sandwich when they were carrying it on. And they had this stripper that came out of the cake. And if I tell you, this woman, gorgeous. I mean, a real, easily one of the 5 most beautiful women I've ever been in the same room with in my life. Gorgeous woman and a real professional. And she finishes her dance and they kind of break away from her and go to Bobby. I don't remember if it was Bobby and Vince or Bobby and Sean Mooney or Bobby and Mean Gene or something. They're kind of moving into the commercial. And the stripper is making her way off the stage as Bobby's talking. And I see the fish, the raw fish on the floor. And I bent down and I was on camera. And I, right next to Bobby, I pick up the fish. I go, lady, you forgot your fish. And everybody, it was like, they had to redo the whole thing. And it was like, it took a while. Like everybody that was on set was coming up to me and saying that was priceless. That was like, and so, sentimental in the way that it was at that moment that I realized that, yeah, this is a really good character. And off screen, sentimental, I don't know. I don't know. I would say, I don't know. I don't really know if I had any sentimental moments. I had maybe my most uncomfortable or most shocking moment was when one of the production assistants came up to me and said, don't hang out with this guy because Pat Patterson is getting jealous. And I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know. I know Pat was gay. I didn't know. I was so naive. I was in my 30s, but I didn't know any of that stuff was going on. But it was like, it really gave me a moment to pause. This was when we were on the road. It gave me a moment to say, I think I'm out of my element here. I don't do drugs anymore. I'm not partying with these guys. I don't even know what's going on. And I'm getting myself in trouble just being friendly with this guy, not knowing that was one of Pat's stablemates, so to speak. But yeah, not a lot of sentiment, but a lot of love. Sensational Sherri, maybe my favorite person that I ever met while I was doing that. Just a sweetheart. Yeah, definitely my favorite. At least like we did the same things. We talked about the same things. She was from the South. I was from the North, but a lot of the same, sentiment. Yeah, I loved her to death.
Awesome, man. Yeah, she was awesome. But thanks so
Funny?
much.
Yeah, so funny. Yeah, man. Anytime. You're awesome. You're a pro.
Thanks.
Enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
thanks for your time, man. I've really enjoyed speaking with you today, man. Thanks, and best of luck with the comedy show. Everybody, check it
Thank
out.
you.
Go to eventbrite.com, August 7th, New
Thank
York
you.
City. Check out John DiGiacomo. Thanks again, my friend.
All
Take
right,
care.
buddy. Talk soon. Okay.
Thank you for tuning into Pro Wrestling Defined on YouTube. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel to keep up with all future content. And please follow Pro Wrestling Defined on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.